I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever been made to feel ashamed for who you are, what you were wearing, who you're friends with? Ashamed. It is an extremely heavy word. It's so small, yet it's so powerful. My name is Tia Sanker, and in these same halls is where I was made to feel ashamed for the first time. I was in 8th grade, 12 years old, and one day I walked into the washroom and was faced by the words, Tia Sanker is a blank, blank, followed by vile and unspeakable words. And when I approached my class teacher for comfort and guidance, she looked at my face and told me that my actions and my behavior maybe gave off that impression. And I was justified to be told this in public. I had to endure my friends, my supposed mentors, being told not to associate with me, not because of actual behavioral violations, but because I behaved in a manner that they deemed not appropriate. Shame is what I felt, not because of my actions, but because of the reaction of others. This continued for a couple of months, but I learned to move past it. And with the arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic, I presumed my nightmare to be over. A year later, in grade 9, my closest friend's father deemed it necessary to send a letter to my school saying that I shouldn't be made into an example, questioning my integrity, and based on rumors that were baseless. Shame is what I felt, not because of my actions, but because of the reaction of others. Insomnia, digestive issues, stress hives, restlessness, and panic attacks. The doctor said it was because of acute stress. But that stress didn't come from examinations, family stress, or academics. It came from a series of events some traumatic, some not so obvious, and the character assassination and humiliation that went hand in hand with it. Regardless of whatever I brought to the table, my skill sets, my passion, my accomplishments, my desire to contribute to the greater good, all of that was so easily dismissed because all that they could see was a girl who was friends with boys. And it was hard because I didn't understand what it was that I was doing wrong. And suddenly, people that I grew up with, people who I trusted, so easily turned their back to me. I have never been claustrophobic, but in those moments, I felt the walls closing in. Innocent and wholesome relationships had been turned into something dark and vulgar. I can't help but wonder that if I had played it safe back then, if I had listened to what those teachers had told me to do, been the good girl that they wanted me to be, maybe I would have stayed on my feet back then. I miss who I used to be. Even back then, I couldn't let it go. I fought with it in my sleep. I kept looking for some kind of a sign. And even now that I'm grown, those memories feel like weapons. And I wanted back the innocence of my girlhood. It was mine first. I have a genuine love for public speaking. I'm an avid munner, and arguing is one of my biggest skill sets. In an expression of opinions, in arguments, I presumed what was being judged was my logic and my points. What I didn't realize was that by simply being open with my opinions, what was really on trial was my personality and my character. What I ended up learning really, really young is that they will tell me who I am, and I guess I didn't have a choice. And I'm privileged, I'm lucky. It would be very, very foolish not to admit it. I'm surrounded by educated people and live in a community where my neighbors don't have the right to question what I'm doing. Open-mindedness and personal liberty aren't often questioned. And if the impact on me was so huge, it brings me to wonder what a girl in a village somewhere where everybody knows what everybody is doing is impacted. Although my parents didn't believe in this slander, these little things could have led to some girl somewhere being constrained by societal mores, by pressures, by neighbors, and by ever-watching eyes. Let's look at Anita. Anita is a girl, like a lot of us. The problem with Anita is that she was smart, she was brilliant, she was talented, but she had a short skirt. And for all the good things she ever did, people could not look past the skirt. They shamed her, they called her names. Wherever she went, her life was constantly followed by whispers. And with all her brilliance, she couldn't handle the state of isolation, this suffocating loneliness. And all of this brought her to bring her life to an end on 10th of November 2021. And nobody killed her except the wagging tongues behind her. And there are thousands of girls like Anita. Maybe they don't end their lives, but all of them don't live up to their full potential. They end up living half lives. And what stings the most is that if I was a boy, what I would be doing would be considered complex. It would be cool. I'd be considered a bold leader, an alpha type. What I would be wearing would be separated from my good ideas and attitude. It's extremely unfair, to say the least. And what I was told from a young age is that reputation is everything. Reputation precedes you, and you must guard it with your life. And because of that, I learned that sometimes your spirit will hurt the demon in others. And when your spirit does hurt the demon in others, hating simply isn't enough. They will start propagating false accusations. They will build a general dislike against you, thereby killing any character you might have had. To add to my point, I would like to tell you the story of Medusa. Medusa's story is not necessarily a new one to tell. Her appearance is recognizable by anyone. Having live snakes on her head instead of hair, and eyes that could turn any man to stone. She was the main antagonist of Perseus, who eventually managed to kill her by brutally severing her head from her body. This is the short story of Medusa. This is all that we were ever taught as kids. But the story that you probably haven't heard of is one where Medusa, the former chief priestess of the goddess Athena, was brutally raped by Poseidon at the sacred temple of Athena. She prayed and she prayed to her goddess for help. And Athena, jealous of her lustrous hair, turned them into snakes and her allurous face into one that no one could ever look into again. She was one of the many historical victims of victim blaming and character assassination. But why are we talking about Medusa today? Because in India and everywhere, Medusas are being made every day. And their crimes? Having a skirt shorter than what is deemed appropriate, interacting with the opposite gender. Worse, having an interest in the opposite gender. And these constraints aren't something imaginary in a far, far land, solely being enforced by someone like the Taliban. This is seen much nearer to home. Let's take the case in Haryana. In Haryana, the village Khap panchayats banned unmarried girls over the age of 10 from owning mobile phones and wearing jeans because they thought it had a bad effect on them and led to eve-teasing events. The freedom of young girls was constrained because of the action of men. This is modern society, and these views are still being upheld. As a society, we cannot progress with 50% of our population being oppressed, even before they become adults. And to all the people who say that, oh, why didn't she speak up sooner? Why didn't she say something? Because of shame, because of humiliation. Humiliation is one of the primary reasons why women do not come forward to report this or any action that comes as an outcome of this. Shame. It is the intense core emotion that an expert very rightfully put in his words, saying that shame is a natural reaction to being violated, and in its essence is dehumanizing and humiliating. There is such an overabundance of shame reserved for women. If she has male friends, there is shame. If she has a boyfriend, there is shame. If she has a short skirt, there is shame. And this isn't something that we grow out of. Shame is so pervasive. And what started off as a length of a skirt has now started becoming a matter of being. And clothes have started somehow defining our character. And not being ashamed of it all somehow brings us further shame. And I have been in that very position of being shamed. And let me tell you, what I was thinking of in those moments wasn't hatred for the people who had wronged me. It was how to end the misery that my life had now become, because that is how humiliating and shamed I felt. Each day, there is a new Anita. Maybe there is a new Tia. So I would like to dedicate this talk to those who have fallen victim to this, and would like to label and address what actions we commit every day that inadvertently normalize this mindset. So, starting with, what is this? This is something we like to call character assassination. It is the slandering of a person with the intention of destroying their reputation, their public confidence. It means to diminish a person's strength, exaggerating the person's problems, and creating unpleasant associations about that person, therefore damaging that victim's character. And when it comes to women and young girls, this is something that is commonly referred to as slut shaming. But apart from traumatizing children, what impact, short and long term, does this have? It leads to India having one of the lowest participation of women in the workforce. It has a kind of societal pressure for women to stop working once they're married. Higher rates of eve-teasings, down to lower rates of tourism because foreign women are treated like sluts, and normalization of a type of rape culture that absolutely plagues this country. Can I please ask anybody here in a skirt to please stand up? What about girls with jeans or wearing jeans? What about girls who own smartphones? Can I please request you to stand up? I'm sure that you feel awkward, but I'm also sure that having all these qualities sure as hell doesn't change your character. But in someone's eyes, in some societal prism, all of you should be ashamed. If such small things can determine your character, your personality, diminish your accomplishments in the eyes of others, no wonder we haven't been able to progress as a society. You can all sit down, thank you. If you are a dynamic, successful individual, a born leader, charismatic, popular, attractive, or all of the above, at some point, you are guaranteed to have been the target of character assassination. If you're a little different, it's enough. Given how damaging character assassination can be, it's worthwhile to have in your toolkits the means to not only survive character assassination, but also prevail. Ultimately, character assassination has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the person who's engaging in it. And that should make you feel better and allow it to leave it behind you where it belongs. My advice to all of the little girls watching this is that life can be heavy and you cannot carry everyone's opinions all at once. Part of growing up and moving into these new chapters in your life means knowing what things to keep and what things to let go. You cannot carry all things. Decide what is yours to keep and release the rest. Often, the good things in your life weigh less anyway. I do know, however, that this feeling, this shame, comes from a sense of being rejected. It is human nature that we have a need for community, and being rejected from that community is equivalent to dying. But we all crave for acceptance and love from our friends, from our mentors, from society. But if you want to make it ahead in your life, we cannot let those needs push you down and stop you from living up to your full potential. And if we are growing up, do you really want to do it in Mr. G's tent? And to all the parents who are watching, all I can say is trust your children. Give them support and give them the tents that they need to grow. Thank you so much, everyone.